Have you ever wondered how the behind-the-scenes team makes a scaffolding company tick? Today, I'm speaking to Kenny, Embassy's yard manager. He will give us an inside look into life at the yard, his relationships with his yard staff, and the wider scaffolding team. I'm here today at Embassy Site Services, and we're going to learn a little bit more about what happens as part of being a yard manager. So I'm here with Kenny today. Kenny, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How you doing? You good?
Yeah, not bad. Thank you very much.
Can you talk us through a typical day for a yard manager? What does it look like?
Right, so normally, at the start of my day, what I'll do is I'll first come in and I'll actually liaise with the transport manager just to make sure that obviously everything, because he starts before me, so I'll start after him, but just make sure that in the morning everything was fine with the lorries, because obviously I'll be here the night before just checking that, but yeah, just make sure that obviously make sure barriers are on the lorry, make sure handrails are on the lorry, all signage is also on the lorry, make sure all the safety stuff that as much as I can help before it gets to site is done before it gets there.
So I suppose a lot of your job is preparatory, as in like making sure there's that any risks is minimised, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so yeah, obviously I'll just like we've got a few jobs now where we have to pre-strop the loads, so we have to make sure that the strops we have got are one in date, and two, obviously that certificate goes to the site with the driver. I normally do it on a PDF and just send it with the driver as well, so they can check against our records to make sure they're correct.
And I assume you have to work with lots of different contractors?
Yes, so we've got a lot of different contractors. Barrett's being one of our big ones, HG. They've all got different sort of little things they like, and even Equans as well. Like some of them, they're all different, but pretty much make sure that, from my point of view, everything is safe before it leaves this yard.
Yeah, sorry, I cut you off then, but yeah, I mean, it seemed to me that communication is a huge part of your job. Obviously, you know, you've mentioned that you're working with obviously your own staff in the yard, but you're also working with the different contractors that come in as well.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. So obviously, every morning when I come in, I'll speak to my yard supervisor, which is Lucian, and he would tell me if like we need, like say, could be anything down to a double or 21-foot tube, but just make sure that stock levels are all correct, and obviously I have to liaise with the contracts managers, because obviously like that's Lenny, Scott, Mick, that obviously any requirements, like because we look into the future a bit, so if like there's a job coming up and it's going to need a span of beams, just making sure that I've got that in my stock levels so I can plan better rather than it be lastminute.com.
Yeah, and you know, as we all know, preparation for any job, you know, so what's the old saying? Is it prepared to fail or fail to prepare?
Yeah, that's something like that. Yeah.
I know you work closely with Seb as well. With
yes, I do. Yeah.
Safety. Talk us through a little bit about that.
Yeah. So obviously, when me and Seb obviously talk on a daily basis, just making sure that he just checks in with me, making sure that we've got the right harnesses, right lanyards, helmets, just make sure they're all compliant with what they need to be for down out on site. And like I said, we've had a harness issue where they're coming up a bit too big for some people because not everyone's the same size, but we've dealt with the issue and we can sort of apply the harness and lanyard to a certain person now rather than just the bog standard, oh here we go, that's the one you've got. So now we've actually we've changed a few harness and lanyards around for people to make sure they're perfect for them.
Good for little guys like myself, you know, we don't
exactly
slip it out, right?
Yeah, exactly that, yeah. So we had a problem where it was people coming up a bit, like you get the biggest scaffold in the world and you get the smallest one in the world, but yeah, what we've done is just sort of adjusted that working forward.
Now, Embassy Site Services, you know, one of their sort of slogans is raising the game, as it's mentioned behind us. What about sustainability in the industry? Because I know that's a huge thing right now across, across the world, across the country. You know, what are the scaffolding industry trying to do with sustainability for the future?
To be honest, I think it's just more with that health and safety. Because obviously, if you look at scaffolding back in the day, it was like I've seen people climb up the side of a scaffold, and obviously now it's a big like no. So obviously, make sure, like I said, with the clipping on with the harnesses, we also use full block, or I call them inertia wheels. Just obviously making sure anything like that when they're doing temporary roofs, making sure they're in date, certified. Basically, just making sure everything you are using is compliant with what you're using. And I think that, well, especially since I've been here, I've seen Embassy raise that game, especially with the likes of bringing in someone like Seb, who he knows his stuff, put it that way.
And, you know, I would imagine staff retention is good because it's a good company to work for.
Yeah. I think it's a really good company to work for. I've actually, been here just over 2 years, and I've had the exact same yard staff for the whole 2 years. I've not had any sort of turnaround. I've increased by one, so that's like but that's just a new member of staff, and he's been in our 6-7 months. But yeah, so from my point of view, and like you see a bit of a turnaround, but in overall, the people that have been here for as long as I've been here. So I've not seen many, like, I've seen new faces come in, but that's only because we're growing as a company, not because they're changing around.
And that speaks volumes for your own management style then?
Well, I'd like to think so, yeah, because I feel like I am a good people person, and me and my yard supervisor do get along pretty well. And I think it is communication is key. I think not sitting on a hierarchy wall is a good thing. I think just being on a level with someone, and he's got a problem, he can talk to me, and if I've got a problem, I can talk to him.
And Embassy is a family-run business, and
yes.
You mentioned earlier on to us when we were talking about how much Matt and the guys in the family, really appreciate your work.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. I feel like me and Matthew have got a really good relationship. I can approach him at any time, and he can approach me at any time. It's just like anything I've got to say to him, and if I think something's a bit out of turn, I can speak to him, and he might be like, "All right, fair enough, we'll do it that way instead." And yeah, it's really good. And the same with Rebecca. She's come to me. Obviously, I deal with Matt more on a daily basis, but anything with Rebecca as well as Henry as well.
Talk to us about some issues you might face on a daily basis, or things that might arise that as you maybe the strangest thing you've ever had to deal with and stuff like that as well.
One of the strangest things I've had to deal with is unblocking a load of toilets in this place, to be honest. But sort of the issues I face on a daily basis will be something like just if a new scaffolder started and he just doesn't he hasn't caught up to speed with the way that we run things now. It'd be like I'll get a listing for the next day and it'll be late, and that really can just upset the thing, because at the moment what we do is I make sure all the loads that need to be offloaded by forklift or crane are in by 1 o'clock, and then sort of they've got till 4 o'clock for the normal the working ones. But if a crane one comes in at 4 o'clock, it can just upset. It just means the yard get a bit upset. But it's just learning, really. It's not. That's probably the main issue I face. Just because, but that's just I talk to the person, then it's solved.
And as organisation must be really, really important and key to ensuring it runs smoothly, then, right? Yeah.
So obviously, I help organise with the labour for the next day, like the day work. I'll just make sure that I've spoke to every scaffolder, making sure what their needs are, not just relying on the contracts managers, because obviously it can be hard for them as well. But yeah, I'll just double check the scafs. Do you need lorry? What do you need on lorry? Or even if it's a collection as well, handrail strops. Like to know what the site's needs are as well as our own, because some companies like using their own strops and stuff, whereas we obviously provide our own when needed.
Now, I wanted to gain some insight into the challenges that are faced on a daily basis and how Kenny and his team stay organised. I was also keen to understand how important stock management is to ensuring projects remain on track. So Kenny, talk to us a little bit about your background and how you got into stock management and what that sort of entails.
Okay, well, so when I joined my first scaffold company, I took on because they'd never had a stock management person, so it's just making sure that obviously what the stock they've got will suit the jobs that we've got coming up, and it's moved on to here as well. So obviously when I've came into the door here, obviously we've got a load of stock in the yard, we've got a good sized yard here, and obviously we own all of our equipment, which is good. Obviously I'll just make sure that I liaise with it could be the general manager or the contract manager. They've got a new job upcoming, just double checking with them that we've got enough tube and board, or beams is a big one. Obviously making sure we've got enough of that. Hacky staircase we've got as well. It's just basically making sure that if they've got a 30 metre staircase coming up, I've just got to make sure that we've got enough 30 metre for a 30 metre staircase going up. And I've been working in that sort of stock management for it's 10 years now. So yeah, it comes sort of with yard manager, it sort of runs alongside it, just making sure all work. Everyone's happy, basically.
And with regards to, you mentioned that Embassy own their own equipment. Is that unique for a scaffolding firm then?
Yeah, I think it is, because the scaffold company I did actually used to work for, we owned a fair bit, but we also hired a lot of equipment. And on Embassy, we haven't, since I've been here, we haven't actually hired any equipment, so we own a fair chunk of scaffolding, and it's really good to have actually, because I mean, I don't know that side of it, but I believe that means they can give better rates to people.
Right, excellent. Well, which is good for everyone all round, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, we can win a job and everyone's happy, and keeps me in a job, keeps everyone in a job, doesn't it?
So a big thanks to Kenny for talking us through what it's like to work as a scaffolding yard manager. We really appreciate the Embassy site staff for having us here today, and we'll see you in our next instalment.